Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again. The Atheist Experience is live, June 29th, 2003. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. Ashley Perrien, my co-host, as always. And this show is sponsored by Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. ACA has weekly meetings every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. at Hot Jumbo Bagels, which is located downtown, 307 West 5th Street, between Guadalupe and Lavaca, except for the first Sunday of every month when we have our lecture series in the Mayor Room of the Austin History Center at 9th and Guadalupe. That will be next Sunday, the first Sunday of July. Our lecturer will be Melinda Badgley, talking about faith-based initiatives. So that should be most worthwhile. And if you're planning to attend that little talk on our website in the upcoming events page, there's a way to send Melinda questions in advance of her talk so that she can have answers prepared, and so that she can have an idea more about like what people want to know about that sort of thing. So other ACA events include Godless Gamers, which is every Monday night at Russell and Virginia Glasser's house, and ACA Happy Hour, which takes place Thursday evenings. It's an all-night event starting about 7:30, but people trickle in all night, and that's at Antonio's Tex-Mex near the 183 and Interstate 35 intersection. Just look for the table that has the little Darwin fish sign, and that's where we are. The Nonprofits is the ACA's bi-weekly radio show, which plays every other Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock p.m. It's at atheistnetwork.com, and it's an MP3 stream, and there is a live interactive chat room feature that runs during the program so that you can sort of interact with other listeners as well as producer of the show while they're live, and sometimes they'll interact back with you. But the next episode of that will be this coming Saturday, the 5th of July. And if you visit our website at atheist-community.org, click on the radio show page, you can listen to like the last 10 or so of the episodes that have already played, past episodes in MP3 formats. But that's atheistnetwork.com this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. Very, very enjoyable show. They've kind of gotten back into their groove, and it's just 90 minutes of Jeff D. and Russell Glasser and Vic Farrow, just grousing about whatever's been going on in the last 2 weeks. And University Atheists and Agnostics, they're taking the summer off, but they will be back in full force coming with the fall semester. It is a registered UT student organization. The email address is right there, uaa@mail.utexas.edu. If you are a UT student or faculty member, you can email that address, and Charles Tabaney, the founder of the group, will get back to you and tell you all about it. And as soon as they know when their next their meeting room, where that will be located starting for the fall semester, we'll have that information as well. But that's been a very successful group. It's been in operation now for 2 semesters, and they're going to keep it going. So congratulations for them. Let's see, what else in the way of announcements? I do believe that that's it for announcements. So except to say, of course, that to find out more about us, you can visit our website, atheist-community.org. I can't say it enough. And also, if you've never watched this program before, we're on weekly, have been for about 5 years. We are a live call-in television show all about atheism. We throw open the phones to folks like you if you are interested in talking about what's on your mind and religious matters and what have you. But it seems that every week we never manage to get around to every single one of the calls that get lined up on the queue here. So we have our viewer email address for TV show feedback, and that's at tv@atheist-community.org. And last week we got a very interesting letter. It's a follow-up on a show we had a couple weeks ago when Don Baker was our guest, talking about the Christianity meme. And Ashley responded to that, and so that's up on... So we answer all the letters, and some of them end up on our website on the viewer email page, and then if we get a really good letter, I'll print it out, bring it to the show, and we'll discuss it here on television. So, tv@atheist-community.org, it's your address, so use it, send us stuff. Okay, I think that's it. So, it's over to Ashley for the news, and what's happening on planet Earth?
Start off relatively local here. San Antonio, actually. 22-year-old is facing 1 count of arson, but police say they think that he has set more than a dozen small fires at churches usually by lighting an oil-soaked sock and tossing it through a window of a church trying to burn it down. Jesus Arturo Barraza Jr. visited a number of churches recently to ask ministers about their beliefs. Police said that they think he returned later and set churches on fire. Apparently, he didn't like their answers on interpretations of the Bible, so he burnt them down, or tried to do.
So is this guy a hyper-fundy, or is he some other... what is he?
The article doesn't say specifically, but they kind of paint him as just a religious nutball. Essentially that, he has no specific denomination, doesn't go to any specific churches. He just kind of sits on his porch all day reading the Bible. And so he has his own...
healthy.
He has his own interpretation of how things are supposed to go, and so he goes to local churches, finds out what they believe, disagrees with them, throws a sock in there, and tries to burn it down.
Wow.
He told investigators that God told him to commit these crimes, and that during committing these crimes, God was protecting him and watching over him. Watching him by saying, "Hey, cops, he's over here."
Yeah, he didn't.
So,
God went out to grab a smoke, and
and then he got caught, So
it eased up on the protection a bit, and just, wouldn't you know it?
So they're linking him to 14 different fires. Now, a lot of these are really small. Some of them didn't even spread. I assume the sock burned up on the tile, and that was the end of it. But
so this guy's like a complete idiot, right?
Yeah, he's kind of incompetent too.
You think?
So thankfully, actually, we don't need huge church fires anywhere. But yeah, so he is being held on just one count of arson right now. But who knows? Maybe more.
14 counts of legal stupidity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm glad they got him.
That's enough of San Antonio. Okay, this is actually an interesting twist on a old story. We used to have all those stories about Ten Commandments monuments and plaques that were being, coming down like dominoes all across the country. This one actually in Philadelphia, a plaque that's been up for 83 years in a suburban courthouse does not constitute an official endorsement of religion and may remain there for the sake of historical preservation, a federal appeals court said Thursday. Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said a reasonable person familiar with the plaque's history would regard the decision to leave it in place as a religiously neutral rather than an evangelical in nature.
Well, it certainly isn't religiously neutral because the only place the Ten Commandments appears is in the Holy Bible.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not religiously neutral. Seems to the only way they're grandfathering this in, just by virtue of the fact, look, it's been up here 83 years. And possibly. So that's the argument that they're using to keep it up. It's like it's part of the building.
Yeah.
It would be just like, if you had an 83-year-old bust of, George Washington or something.
Yeah.
They're drawing the equivalency there. It's the plaque itself is now part of the building's history. Seems to me that's what they're arguing, right?
Yeah. Well, the prosecution had to say, when the government displays a religious icon, it gives credence to the persecution of atheists. It says the government endorses the specific viewpoints, and other viewpoints are looked at in disdain. However, okay, well, whatever, Andy. Somebody is yelling at us, correcting us. So, okay.
Well, is that what the news article says?
We appreciate that. There is no prosecution in a case like this, apparently.
Well, what did the article say? You were reading from the article when you said that.
Margaret Downey, the Free Thought Society member who initiated the suit,
so the plaintiff
said she may appeal to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
She was saying when the government displays blah, blah, blah.
Right. So plaintiff, not prosecution.
Okay. All right.
Come on, get it right, Ashley. Jeez.
Sorry. Okay. The other side had to say, the story of the Ten Commandments is the story of people coming out of the wilderness and finding civilization and law. It symbolizes order through law. I missed that part, apparently, but yeah, apparently the Ten Commandments is part of our, Cowboys and Indians tale story too, apparently.
Well, I mean,
and finding
any number of things could be, could symbolize order through law. They could have Hammurabi's Code up there. They should have
the Bill of Rights, the Constitution.
Yeah, so that's. But then why not have whatever list of rules exist in every other holy book for every other religion in the world?
Yeah.
There seems to me there's no real reason not to include those and say the same thing about them because you could.
Yeah.
You could have a list of Confucius's writings.
Yeah. The funny thing about this one though is that
does it have 11 commandments like the one here in Austin?
No, actually I did double check on that.
Oh, okay.
But this one, the commandments on here, they actually go a little bit further. It's just not thou shalt not do this. And
Right.
on to the next one. Some of them have a little bit more explanation along with them from the Bible, and that kind of adds an interesting spin to them. What is it? Thou shalt not bow down before them, graven images and such. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation, for them that hate me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going all out here.
So that's actually on the plaque.
That is actually on the plaque.
So we have this violent vengeful
this
God,
violent, vengeful, jealous God
being advocated by the state.
Yep.
And they're saying, oh, this symbolizes people coming out of the wilderness and finding civilization through law. It's like, worship anything else and I'll fry your ass. Yeah. No, that doesn't seem to me to be a very uplifting sentiment, to found a civilization upon.
Yeah.
But, the fundamentalists seem to think it is.
And they take one of the slightly lighter interpretations, or actually one of the harder interpretations. They say, thou shalt not kill. Whereas many people have told us many times before, it's actually thou shalt not murder.
Right. Which is doing what? Which is creating a relative...
Exactly. It's a relative thing. So
yeah, it's making killing...
become murder?
It's relativizing killing.
Yeah. So... but yeah, they've got a little more explanation in some of these, which was kind of fun to see that.
Yeah.
So,
is there like another
that was
amusing? That was the best one?
That was the major one.
Okay. Well, they should have like one up in the one that's by our Capitol building. I think they probably ought to add, thou shalt learn to count. Because if you have a 10 Commandments monument with 11 commandments on it, that's kind of like, goofy.
Yeah. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
See, just this Lord is just,
one egotistical.
He's the big cosmic bully, right? Yeah. It's like the reason you worship this God is because if you don't, he'll mess you up. It's no different than the bully on the playground. It's like, give me your lunch money, or else, I will visit iniquity upon you.
Another thing kind of funny about this one too. There's 10 commandments. Mm-hmm. Not exactly a 300-page document here to read. It's on one plaque. Okay.
Yeah.
However, they do find it necessary to have a summary at the bottom.
What, for people who can't?
Apparently, people who don't want to read the first 10 can just read these bottom, 2. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thine soul. And
wait,
all
that's on there? And they're saying it's a religiously neutral monument? And that's on there?
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind.
And they're saying that's religiously neutral?
Apparently, yeah. I can see it.
Yeah, must be some really great coke floating through the halls of power in Philadelphia there.
Yeah, and they've been overdosing on it.
I think they're unclear on the concept of what it means to be religiously neutral. Religiously neutral means you don't tell people like what God to worship and how.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
I think that she should appeal that and take it right up to the Supremes if she needs to.
Exactly.
Because that's just crazy.
Yeah, that's a little bit out of order.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't read the entire ruling. I didn't read about the whole history of the plaque and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I don't care about the history.
But it's still kind of
slavery is an old institution too. Yeah. Segregation was around a long time.
Exactly.
Lots of stuff that's really old that's not good, which is why we don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So time for that to join the pile.
Why can't this be one of them?
Yes, why can't it?
So we don't need these 10 simplistic document commandments try and make us a good people. It don't work.
Well, not by scaring somebody by saying worship this violent God who will hurt you if you don't. I don't see how that makes anyone a good person. That just makes people fearful.
Beat the tar out of you.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe that's the attitude. A fearful person is a docile person.
Yes. Easy to control.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's about, gang?
Milwaukee.
I like that city.
Milwaukee. This is a lady up there who has been distributing her book, The Book of Hope, which is a version of her Bible, on buses for the last 3 years. Just getting on the bus with a pile of these and giving them out to all the different passengers and stuff like that. Bus driver just, this last week or something told her to, please stop, knock it off. We don't need this. She said no. Mm-hmm. So he says, look, we got rules against, distributing this kind of stuff on the bus. She goes, I don't care. It's my freedom of speech. He goes, fine, then picks her up and throws her off the bus.
Like physically?
It was
ejected her bodily from the bus.
It made it sound like yes. He didn't just say please leave, and she did. It was a bit more of a you're getting your butt off.
Punt.
Yeah, I know. So
that might have been.
So, But that was in the summer 2002, actually.
Because if that is the case, she could probably bring an assault charge on him. Has she, in fact, done that?
No.
Huh, okay.
No. I don't think it was anything quite that serious. I'm not seeing the wording right in front of me. It's on later. Forcefully removing Miss Anderson from the bus because she distributed the Bible was a humiliating experience, her attorney said in a statement. Passengers don't shed their constitutional rights, freedom of speech, when they enter the public transportation venues. The transportation system's written policy prohibits distribution of any form of advertising or literature on buses and trolleys.
That's what that was. Yeah.
Yes, but essentially...
She was distributing literature on the...
But what she's saying is it's her, her God-given, apparently, right to freedom of speech to go on here and say...
Another person who thinks freedom of speech means freedom to force people to listen to you.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. And then, of course, they have to go all overboard with this. The problem, Staver said, which I think Staver is her lawyer, said in an interview, lies in the selective enforcement of this policy. As written, it technically prevents the giving of a letter to a friend, passing along a newspaper after a passenger has finished reading it, handing out a business card to a new acquaintance, and, as here, the giving of a free book to a fellow passenger. I call it get serious.
Yeah, that's... the difference is, if there is that...
In practice, it's virtually impossible to enforce.
Yeah.
Which, to a certain extent, is true.
They could have a point.
But this is very different than...
Well, there's a difference between, sitting there, here we are on the bus, sitting there, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what an interesting conversation we're having. I think you'll like this book that I've been reading.
I'm done with the paper. You want it?
Yeah. There's a big difference between that and somebody walking up and down the aisle saying, here is my book of hope, and that you will receive Jesus into your heart, and da-da-da. That's like canvassing. That's distribution, and it's a whole different thing. Now, if her lawyer has a point in that the law as written is so vague as to prohibit something perfectly innocent, like somebody handing somebody their USA Today, then, okay, they should go back, revisit the law, clarify the wording.
Try and figure out what's going on there,
But... I think it's already been ruled in cases like this that this is a case of if you have a captive audience.
Yes.
Okay.
As in football games.
Then that's right.
Buses.
Then it's no longer a First Amendment issue on your.
Yes.
On your part. It's the whole, well, does freedom of speech mean it's the old fire in the crowded theater thing?
Exactly.
Right? And so it's. But he could very well have a point in needing to clarify the law if it's vague as written.
What is considered distributing public? What is distribution of any form of advertising or literature?
Something interesting to add, and I'm going to try to have more about this next week because there's something about this whole notion of Christians who feel that their God-given rights supersede
everything else,
the law of the land.
Yeah.
That seems to be a growing problem. I last week on O'Reilly. He had a couple of guests on. It was a woman and her husband and their baby.
Okay.
And this an incident happened in 2002. This woman, and of course, O'Reilly likes to think he's a real big hardball interviewer, but he went really soft on these people, especially when I found out more about them.
Okay.
But the incident was that this woman was breastfeeding her baby.
I have that news story.
Oh, you've got that.
I've got the story.
Well, then let's read it, and then I'll go into what I found out about these guys.
Okay, fine.
Because the couple and their baby, they were on O'Reilly last week.
And they're complete morons.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but I'll just kind of run with it. This is a lady who was on the Ohio Turnpike.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding her child while driving on the Ohio Turnpike. According to court docket, 29-year-old Catherine Nicole Donkers is scheduled to go on trial August 6th for misdemeanor charges of child endangering, failure to comply with an order of a police officer, and several other driving infractions. She could have had the original charges, driving without a license, obstructing official business, and violating child safety seat laws, reduced to a single guilty plea of driving under suspension, according to court records. Now, what she would have got for that is a slap on the wrist and a $100 fine. No big deal. She should just, pay it and move on. Mm-hmm. However...
They have a point to make, don't they?
However, of course, they're not just going to let this fly.
Right.
Her husband, and apparently her too, are a member of some wacko, fundamentalist church. And according to the Bible, the head of the household is the only one who's responsible. Since she was driving and married, she should not be punished in any way, shape, or form.
By anyone other
than the husband.
Yes.
So he wants to, go to court and pay the fines and do whatever it takes, rather than have his wife do it. Because he's the head of the household. If anyone's going to punish her, it's going to be him. And so they should go back and punish him. It's...
Well, see, that's not what he said on O'Reilly.
He made the claim citing Mosaic law from the Old Testament and writings from the days of the Founding Fathers because of the couple's deeply held spiritual beliefs that the husband is the sole head of the family and the only one who couldn't punish the wife for the public act. Now, they also, their church takes a very literal view of the Constitution and that type of thing. And I'm trying to find actually what it is here. Yeah. But they are essentially very much into the laws and the Bible and trying to integrate those two.
Well, but this is what's interesting. I don't know if you visit their movement, this wacko fundamentalism that they subscribe to.
Seconds,
yeah, this wacko fundamentalism that they subscribe to, and this didn't come up at all on O'Reilly, which is it shows how selective he is in who he hardballs, right? But it's called Christian sovereignty.
Yeah.
And these are among their doctrines, right? Is that the federal government is the beast.
Yes.
I mean, it's as blatant as that.
The website that the fellowship's main objectives to convert and educate sovereign Americans, to demand and defend their God-given rights and fulfill their duties as freedom-loving Christians against the encroachment of the beast and his agents.
And the beast is the federal government.
Hansen identified the beast as the federal government and some of his agents as the IRS, Social Security Administration, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Right. And
they're all the beast.
And Social Security numbers are the mark of the beast.
Yeah, I've heard that, along with barcodes, serial numbers.
And but that's explicitly stated on their website. Any numerical identification is the mark of the beast.
Wow.
Yeah, And so, if I'd been interviewing this woman, I would have said, okay, is this your opinion that the federal government is the beast? Why haven't you renewed your driver's license, ma'am? Is it because that's a government document with a number on it? Is it because that if you renew your driver's license, you think you'll have the mark of the beast upon you? Is that why you're driving around without a license? And really gotten them, into that. And to defend this sort of extremist, anti-government religious views, which I don't.
Exactly.
Either O'Reilly just didn't know, or he glossed over it. He's notorious for glossing over actual facts if he has an agenda to push. But it's interesting. Maybe he just didn't want to portray these people, especially in the spirit of the times, as being anti-government.
Yeah.
When, of course, all good conservatives are out there supposed to be, kowtowing and bending down and licking the government's feet, which is, what you're supposed to be doing now in this day and age. But to present Christians as being somehow anti-government, it's okay to do that to these evil, godless liberals, but we don't want to show that any Christian will be anti-government. So I think that's why maybe he suppressed their affiliation with this extremist right-wing religious group called Christian Sovereignty. And I'm going to have a little bit more information about them probably on next week's show.
And it's just the stupidity. Of all the things you can do while driving, breastfeeding has got to be one of the dumbest things you can possibly comprehend doing.
And he didn't even tackle her on that. He said, look, all he asked was was it the right thing to do? And she's like, well, it wasn't against the law. Was it, was it right?
Mean anything.
But was it right? And she moused out of it, and Mr. No Spin Zone let her mouse out of it.
Oh, jeez.
So it's just the whole thing was really a pathetic display. But the impression that you got was that these were just a couple of arrogant right-wing Christian fundamentalists who seem to think that they can just violate any law they feel like if, in their opinion, it goes against what their God wants. Exactly. And it seems to me that if that's the attitude you take, it's Katie bar the door. You can break any law. And you can choose to break any law and say, oh, well, it's, the beast is, my God tells me that it's more important to do this than the other, and I answer to a higher power. And
it's not also just him saying that you should punish me instead of her.
Yeah.
They're also obviously trying to weasel out of this by saying that they're technically residents of a different state, not Pennsylvania.
It's like they're residents of a different. Yeah, they're like Iowa, and then she was pulled over in another state.
In that state, they have driving laws. Your child doesn't have to be in the safety seat if it's being breastfed at the time.
Yeah.
So they kind of have this way out of it there. So they're saying, well, technically, since we're residents of a different state that doesn't have this law, we shouldn't follow this law, right?
Yeah.
And they said, no, you're in Ohio. Get over it.
Right. So anyway, but that's they're definitely trying to. I think the main thrust of their case is to try to show that the government has no right to tell them what to do and what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's do one more, and then let's take this call, and then we'll do some others while the if we need to wait for other calls to rack up.
Okay.
We can maybe save that one until next week. That's interesting, but it's not like super timely.
All right. Then Interchange.
Let's do that one.
Okay.
We'll do the funny one.
Yeah, CBN, every now and then. I don't usually go to them for news. Christian Broadcasting Network.
Pat Robertson.
Yeah, because they're just kind of wacky. But this one was just, it's nice when the story starts out and they immediately,
go nuts.
They let you know that they're not exactly unbiased. Second sentence of the story. Jews and Palestinians have long battled over who should rightfully inhabit the land of Israel, a land promised to the Jews 4,000 years ago. In the Bible, obviously, in Genesis and such.
Sure.
Now, of course, I mean, this is all just, wackiness of what Pat Robertson or whatever has to say. What I found funny with this, though, is during all the different times that we've had these different peace processes and such, they're pulling out these things saying that, we had a meeting somewhere to try and get peace going. And all of a sudden, April 30th, 2003, America was positioned as the catalyst to jumpstart the so-called solution to the Middle East crisis. A U.S.-backed Palestinian Prime Minister, Mahmoud Abbas, was sworn in. The roadmap peace plan was set in motion. The very next day began the worst month of tornadoes in American history. More than 500 in a single month. So
first off, now
is that as evidence that God is coming down and saying no?
Wait, was it really the worst in history?
According to them.
Well, according to them, I mean, all kind of wild stuff is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Another one. In May 9th, 2003, President Bush addressed students at the University of South Carolina. Again, talking about peace and such. Hours later, tornadoes returned, and Oklahoma City became the bullseye for deadly twisters, reducing what was left of businesses and homes to splinters and bricks. On October 30th, 1991, in a meeting scheduled by the first President Bush, Israelis and Palestinians, blah, blah, blah. The same day, thousands of miles away, a powerful storm was brewing off the coast of Nova Scotia. That was the perfect storm, and 30-foot high waves and all this kind of stuff. Now, again, my point here is that all of this is just a piece of evidence that God, while he theoretically may exist, his omnipotence is definitely not real. Because he was in the Middle East. They had tornadoes. Where was that? In America.
In Oklahoma.
He was in the University of South Carolina, and Oklahoma had tornadoes.
So God either has it in.
He was in the Far East, and thousands of miles away, Nova Scotia. So if God were omnipotent, wouldn't he have better aim?
You'd think,
than this by having storms thousands of miles away from the people who are actually doing anything.
And what's God got against the Oklahomans? I mean,
exactly. He hates them. So
this is of course this is called the post hoc fallacy. All right, but it's all like if A then B, and. But you're right. It's really, really funny to think that this all-powerful God, right? If he wants to express his displeasure, could simply part the clouds and pop his head through like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and say, "Don't be doing that because it makes me mad."
Exactly.
But instead, it's sort of like, "Oh, they're doing all this stuff and they're having this meeting in Aqaba, and they're getting a statehood for Palestinians, and I don't like that.
So I'll go stomping around thousands of miles away.
So I'll have a storm hit like way over here, and." Only Pat Robertson will be able to figure out what's going on because he's my agent on Earth.
He's my chosen messenger.
Yeah, and then that will make it all abundantly clear to everyone, of course.
So,
well, I remember. This is just
omnipotent God has sucky aim.
Just delusional, kooky stuff. I tell you. I remember in 1989 watching. As far back, I mean, this is how much of an impact this moron makes on you when you just encounter his insanity for the first time. But I remember watching the
700
Club, in which the big earthquake had just hit San Francisco, And so Pat Robertson was on the 700 Club explaining that this was God's vengeance against San Francisco for, being San Francisco, right? And then he said the thing, he was on the show with Jerry Falwell talking about how 9/11, again, was our fault. It was God's punishment, against, in an indelicate moment, essentially implying that these Muslims are actually working for the Christian God, and that Al-Qaeda is an organization advocated and supported by the Christian God. So nothing has changed with this guy. He is constantly out there promoting this theology of, punishment and vengefulness and anti-Americanism. And it's just, and he won't quit. It's remarkable.
He's got his own TV station.
Anything. It's like, there was a ceasefire in the Middle East today, and I dropped my groceries.
It's a sign.
Yeah. So really, just something else.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Well, but still, when you have beliefs that are that irrational, there's really no reason to stop there.
Yeah.
Just you can say whatever you like.
It's a sign. It's an omen.
It's a coincidence, Dad.
Okay. Well, the calls are all racked up as they usually are, so we'll just get right to them. Remember, live call-in show, it's all for you. Phone number 477-2288 to talk to us. And we're going to start with Robert, has been holding very patiently for a while. Hey, you're on the air.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good. I understand, a lot of people have their beliefs, and you guys have your own beliefs. I'm just curious to find out, why can't it just be that? Why you guys feel the need to have a show on it? Can't you...
Why do Christians feel the need to have a show?
Well, I mean, I asked you a question. Why do you feel
it's the same question, right? I mean, we're here to express our point of view, and we live in a free society. And
right, I understand that. I just thought maybe you might use your time a little more wisely. And also, it's ironic, that you would have your show on Sundays.
What?
Well, as we explained last week, actually, that's more for practical reasons than anything else. We're off of work. We got a time slot. Go for it.
Oh, well, also, we like having it on Sunday because that's the day that's packed full of religious programming. Sure. But, give me what do you mean by, use our time more wisely? How would we do that, in your opinion?
Well, you could be out doing something more productive,
In other words...
Doing some yard work, working on a car, playing an instrument.
In other words, anybody...
Rather than trying to convert people.
Well, we're not trying to convert people. We're critique. We don't have anything to convert people to, for one thing. And otherwise, we're just here expressing our point of view about what religion is doing. Your attitude basically is, anybody who isn't religious ought to just shut up. Isn't that your attitude? I mean, if you're not, your attitude is anybody who doesn't support religion should just shut up.
No. It's just.
Well, then why do you have a problem with our program? I mean, we're here presenting an opposing view to the prevailing religious attitude in our culture, and we think that's important.
And an important thing to point out here too is that if it was just like you say, some people believe this, some people believe that, why can't we all just get along? That's perfectly fine. The trouble is that some people who believe this or that actually try and legislate on it and tell people that if you don't believe that, then you suck. And so that's what we're kind of fighting against, is people who are saying that you can't be a good person, you can't go to heaven, you can't, just sodomy laws were just overturned just last week.
Right.
So if which
is a shame.
Why is that
your opinion?
Why do you think that? What's that got to do with you?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with me?
Yeah, I mean,
how is that law affecting you?
Homosexuality is sickening.
Well, that's your opinion.
That's your personal opinion.
You don't have to be one at a time. You don't have to be gay, right? I mean, you don't have to engage in sodomy. You don't have to engage in anything sickening that you don't want to. I think gay sex is distasteful. I think eating Brussels sprouts is sickening.
Right.
What's my solution? I don't eat Brussels sprouts.
Well, exactly.
I don't try to make Brussels sprouts illegal. I just don't eat them. I think they're gross.
Right.
So again, why is that a thing that even you care about? I mean, you could have just let that day pass by, and it was not necessarily a...
Oh, right. Well, I didn't hear about it until yesterday. But what needs to happen is fag bashers unite, fag bashers unite, fag bashers unite.
Yeah. See, that's who you are,
intelligence
right?
conversation.
See, that's who you are, and you have to be that way, and we don't. So, All right.
Always one, isn't there?
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Well, how about closet cases unite? There you go. I think that's your problem. All right. Hey, you're on the air, Curt.
Hey, how are you guys?
Oh, we're all right.
Good.
We're talking to the intelligentsia today.
I have been very interested in following the dialogue having to do with the points of view that have been expressed, and I've noted that in the process of critiquing religion and Christianity in particular, there's a lot of negative assertions, and some people would call it bashing. I'll give you the fact that it's stating a point of view. But my question is, coming at it from the other side, I would really like to see a competent intellectual defense of atheism, looking at it from a positive standpoint rather than just bashing the other side. And I haven't seen that. And I think the key for me, as it has to do with looking at that kind of articulation, is number one, what is your epistemology from the standpoint of justifying atheism, and how is it explained the existence of matter in the universe, the creatio ex nihilo perspective, which talks about the creation of the mass of which the universe is made. If it came from nothing, then how did it arise? But in addition to that fundamental question, just an intellectual defense of atheism based on some extremely solid epistemology.
Okay, my epistemology for atheism is that no theist, in my opinion, has ever, in the history of civilization, proven the existence of his God.
But that's a negative.
But atheism is an expression of disbelief, okay? And that's all it is, okay? Atheism doesn't require anything beyond disbelief. It doesn't require, for example, denial of anything that could be possibly called a God. There are some atheists who may take that view, but atheism, as a principle, is only a statement of disbelief. If someone makes a claim and they fail to prove the veracity of that claim, then that's all that is required for you choosing not to believe that claim.
Then how do you explain the creation ex nihilo perspective?
Well, there are quite a lot of different approaches to very ontological issues and all of that. But I don't know what you know about quantum physics, but there is nothing that is outside of our understanding of physics about things happening that are uncaused events. Quantum vacuum fluctuations are things that happen in the universe, and they are essentially uncaused events, things happening at the extreme micro level that are not the result of causation. So there's really nothing outside of our understanding of quantum physics that rules out universes being created, essentially.
From whence did the matter come?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm perfectly happy to tell you when I don't know the answer to a question that I don't know the answer to a question.
Yeah, I understand that, but with all due respect, then, the perspective that you are articulating is based upon a premise that's even more arguable than the premise upon which a religious person would base the premise that there is a God that created it all.
But you see, we're not promoting any belief system here. Atheism is the lack of a belief in a God. We're saying that belief in God is faulty because of such and such reasons. We're not making a statement of anything here.
Yeah.
Now, as for how the universe came to be, again, we'd rather say that we don't know, and we're looking into it, and we're studying, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more one day, rather than just saying, well, I don't know, so let's plug God in that hole and be done with it.
And another problem something that you haven't recognized is that God himself even faces the creation ex nihilo problem. Because if you want to propose a deity as the reason for why there's a universe and why there is... we don't know why there's a universe. But if a theist wants to promote a God as the creator of that, then they immediately have to explain, okay, where did that God come from? What led to that God's creation? Where does that God exist? How does this God go about creating universes? Why did God choose to make things this way instead of other ways? God simply is another mystery that you're introducing to solve the mystery of the universe.
Have you read,
but it doesn't get you to anything concrete.
Have you read Bertrand Russell's explanation of that?
I have, to an extent. I didn't memorize it. I've read quite a lot of different approaches to the first cause argument. But overall, the first cause argument ultimately ends up sort of refuting itself.
Well,
because it doesn't get you to anything concrete.
if you had really read and understood Russell, you probably wouldn't say that. And I would strongly suggest that you read him cover to cover before you go on the tube again.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not here to. Hello, you there?
Wow.
Are you there?
Nope, he hung up on us.
Are you there? Okay.
He hung up on us.
We're not here. We don't have. I don't understand where you get this idea that we have some obligation to defend Russell. My view as an atheist, atheists tend to be free thinkers, and my view as an atheist is that the first cause argument doesn't get you to any concrete answer, and in fact, it refutes itself. Because the premise of the first cause argument, right, is basically as follows. You've got everything had to have a cause, and that cause has to be something other than itself. Okay? And Christians then say, but to get to the beginning of everything, you have to have the first cause, which is the uncaused cause.
Yeah.
Okay? And there are a couple of problems with that. First off, that if once you get to the uncaused cause, you've refuted the premise of the whole argument in the first place, which is that everything has to have a cause.
Yeah. God caused it.
Yeah. But then if you want to restate your premise, if you want to reframe the premise by saying, okay, well, everything but God had to have a cause.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you've still essentially refuted the premise because the minute you're willing to entertain the notion that something, anything at all, could have been uncaused, why do you need God?
Yeah.
Why not just apply that to the universe?
Yeah.
My view is that there has always, to some extent and in some form, been a universe of some kind.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Big Bang, there had to be something to go bang.
Exactly.
Now, that could have been a singularity, a point of infinite density, and then there was a quantum event that... Remember, the Big Bang doesn't have anything to do with the creation of the universe.
Yeah.
The Big Bang just says the universe started to expand.
Exactly. It's the assumption that there was absolutely nothing, and all of a sudden the universe kind of poofed and banged into existence.
I mean, there had to be something to go bang in the Big Bang.
Exactly.
Now,
it's possible that this universe, after a couple more billion years, will contract down to another point, and then explode again into another universe, and 30 billion years from now, and contract down. It's possible that this has been going on forever. Yeah. We have no reason to believe not to.
I think that what makes a lot of religionists uncomfortable, and I guess someone like Curt might fall. Since he's no longer on the air, he can't defend whether he feels that way or not. But what makes a lot of religionists uncomfortable with science is that science doesn't give you a lot of prepackaged answers.
Yeah.
There are always questions. There's always more to find out. Yeah. You'll make a new discovery that'll completely rewrite everything that you think you knew up to then.
Yeah.
And and what people would much rather have is just to say, okay, I know how everything works.
Yeah.
And religion will hand you that. Religion will say, well, it's God. God did it. God made this. God made that. And people will think, that's more sound.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me than to just be toying around with all these inexplicable concepts that are difficult to comprehend, like quantum physics and what have you.
Science isn't always easy.
But, but in other words, the only thing now, but getting back to his first point, the only thing that's required for atheism is if you're confronted with a theist who says, I have this invisible friend, and if they don't give you any evidence for their claim, then you've got no reason to believe them.
Yeah.
It's the dragon in the garage.
Yeah.
And you don't need any to disbelieve in the existence of something doesn't require that any much more epistemology than that.
Yeah.
Give me solid evidence of your God, and I'll cease to be an atheist. So, Carol's next. Hi, thanks for waiting, Carol.
Okay. Can it be said that you are knowledgeable of the Bible?
I have read the Bible.
Yep.
You have read it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. May I ask you to read the first verse of Psalm 14?
Yeah, I've read that one.
And likewise, the first verse of Psalm 53, both say the same thing.
Yeah, and name-calling doesn't impress me.
No, who said I'm name-calling? I'm not calling you a name.
No, but Psalm 14, that's the fool says in his heart there is no God, correct?
Right, and that would not be me calling you a fool.
But you're telling me to read that verse, and that'll straighten me out. And
I'm saying, I asked you if you have read it.
Yes, I have read it, ma'am.
Okay, so then you know what God is saying to you.
I know what the Bible says that God is calling me a fool, and frankly, and as I've told you, name calling doesn't impress me. Evidence impresses me.
That's God name calling. That's not me.
Well, God, the eternal, being of the created universe, is not above name calling. Yeah. I thought we got over that in 5th grade.
Yeah, it's not very impressive when the most all-powerful being in the universe is just calling people fools.
He doesn't have to bow and scrape to you.
Well, but
he made
theists,
you out of the dust.
Yes, but see, it is up to you to prove that claim to us in order for us to believe it. And in the absence of proof,
I'm sure you've heard many Christian apologists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
to you, what good would it do if I add to that?
Well, who knows? You could be the person to come up with an actual argument
That's possible.
that presents us with a point of view.
I'll call you back sometime.
But what
I
about?
appreciate your courtesy.
Certainly, but
I'm
calling,
gonna call you.
but calling us.
No, I didn't call you.
I know, and we appreciate
Okay.
your courtesy. But what we don't appreciate is your Bible's discourtesy in simply
No.
calling us fools.
That doesn't make me discourteous to quote what the Bible itself says, which I believe
You're using the
Then
Bible.
why even bring it up?
You're using the Bible to back up your points.
Absolutely, because I use the Bible to back up my faith.
Exactly.
Okay.
Your beliefs are
Exactly.
set in the Bible. The
They
Bible
are
says that
100%.
the Bible is calling us fools.
100%. So
Yes, 100%.
so then why are you saying you don't agree with Psalm 14:1 that?
No, I
that
didn't
atheists-
say I didn't agree with it. I said I'm not calling you a fool. God is.
Yeah, you're doing it through the Bible, which I think is
No,
cowardly.
I'm not doing it. God is saying that to you.
Yeah,
To anyone that says there's no God.
And you're backing him up.
yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you're standing. You're using the Bible to do your dirty work to call us fools.
Well,
I
if you
understand.
call it dirty work, I'm sorry, but I'm going
Well-
to call you back another time. Would that be all right?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Thank you for your courtesy.
Certainly. You have a nice
You
afternoon.
too.
You know, I mean, it just. Yeah. I don't think you're an idiot, but but here's this Bible quote that I agree with, but it's not me. Come on, man. I mean, it's just look. We'll be perfectly impressed with evidence. We have the phone lines open for arguments, but just you can say, you can call it
Saying
unbelievers fools all you like, but
Saying that you have proof that God created us out of dust is absolutely nothing because, the pink rabbit Earl created me, so they're both
Yes.
exactly supportable.
And
So,
the pink rabbit Earl, if you don't believe in him, well, he just thinks you're a poopy head.
yeah.
All right, well, that's just not, sorry. That's not exactly sound theology. It's like calling people. Right. Anyway, okay. Well, maybe Angela has something of a little more substantial than that. Hi, Angela, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to comment on the anti-sodomy law.
Yes.
Basically that...
Dude, man, get a life.
It's sunny outside.
Yeah. Weren't you the one saying go out and mow the lawn or something? Dude. Wow. You know what I love about that law is that, this has ruined his week. For some
It's so easy
Yeah.
to do.
some people just, care about, I don't know why what other people's private lives are an issue to folks. Glenn is online too. How's it going?
Good.
Hey.
How about yourself?
We're fine.
Well, you guys are getting some real characters today, huh?
No, well, we're getting one character.
Well,
Sort of like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just, I had a comment in regard to the circular logic that a lot of, I guess, Christians are the ones who I've primarily dealt with. I couldn't say for any other religion.
Uh-huh.
But, when I was a teenager, I was told by a pastor at one point, when I was questioning as to how do they know that the Bible's true.
Mm-hmm.
And his response to me was that we know that the Bible is true because the Bible is the Word of God, and God does not lie. And we know that God does not lie because the Bible tells us so.
Yeah. Perfect tautology. Yeah, it's vacuum sealed against any argument.
Exactly. So, I just thought that you guys would enjoy that particular story there.
Yeah. We get quite a bit of that.
Very common.
Oh yeah, a lot of people revert back to something along those lines. Usually, if it's not that, they'll just say, at the end of whatever argument and evidence that they present, they'll just say, well, it just comes down to faith. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, precisely.
Yeah.
Well,
Again.
thank you for your show. It's enjoyable to watch.
Oh, yeah. Always gets feisty. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Okay. Okay, Brian is on 3. Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, thanks.
All right. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm going to just ask you a tough question, but I guess you're used to those. Which is this. What I hate most about religion, and I agree with you on this, is all the debate about how many angels can dance on a head of a pin, who is the Pope infallible, was evolution real or made up? Mm-hmm. But what I like most about them are the humanitarian projects they have. And, and so it looks to me like you're taking on all of the bad part, which is debating all the niceties of the theories of atheism. And, I know everyone can't be a Mother Teresa, but I'm sure that you all in your personal lives do
community work, but have you ever thought about maybe having more community outreach for humanitarian help through an atheist organization?
Yeah. We have actually done some of that in the past, not an extreme amount, but we are out in the community quite a bit. I know that, pretty much a lot of the marches around town, Gay Pride we had a table at, the AIDS Walk we had, we had a
There's Sure Walk against what is it, the battered women's shelter thing.
We had a...
They had the walk to, they do that
safe
walk.
Place.
Safe Place, that's it.
Yeah.
Safe Place.
So.
Gone out and we had some folks like last Halloween, when other people were trick-or-treating, we had some folks go out and collect cans of canned food for homeless shelters and stuff like that. The thing is that ACA is a very small organization. And so we can, what we do, we only are able to do in small ways, and then it's to whatever folks have an idea to do. Sure, we understand that there has been a lot of philanthropic activity that has been initiated by religious organizations, and that's all well and good. The problem is, of course, that
there's been a lot of harm done in the name of those religious organizations too. A lot of dead people on the planet.
Sure, and just a lot of, but even just above and beyond, like the wars and the dead people, just other injustices, unfairness in culture, certain groups of people being, not treated equally under the law. Just like this guy who keeps calling the show today and spouting all of his anti-gay stuff, like people like we care, but it's like that's crucial to him to be able to do that for some weird reason. That's just, he identifies with that.
Well, yeah, it's just emoting. He's not expressing or communicating anything.
Yeah, I know, but it's like he's got to do that. So there is this area in which that is it can be damaging to people. These folks with their baby, the woman breastfeeding her baby, and then using that as a platform. Now they want to make this political issue out of their religion will entitle them to break any law they feel like if they don't think it agrees with their God's law. So there is
the idea of superiority. That's the thing that I dislike most about religion. The idea of treating other people the way you'd like to be treated, which is a theme you don't need to believe in God to have. I think goes through a lot of things. But I'll let you go. Let someone else ask you a question.
Okay, but that's a very good point, and we appreciate you bringing that up, Brian. That's the whole issue of the not many people who are religious abide by the golden rule. They don't treat people the way they would wish to be treated. They treat people in a very inferior way. I would argue that that's actually built into the belief system. When you have a belief system that says you're God's chosen, God loves you, and you get to go to heaven when you die, and all those nasty unbelievers and evil people will burn. How is that anything other than a belief that exalts believers at the expense of unbelievers?
That type of belief I wouldn't subscribe to.
Yeah. And we're not saying that all religious people do, but I do think that it is built into the doctrine.
I think it is. I think once they started building the doctrine after they heard the guy tell the truth, whoever it was, Muhammad or, Muhammad, I don't know, I won't even talk about him. We'll just go with Jesus, something I know something about, and Buddha. Once they start trying to build a religion around what the guy said, everything started falling apart.
Yeah, because, of course, then it became politicized and what have you.
That's my opinion.
Sure. Well, we appreciate your input, Brian. Right. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yeah, there has been a lot of good stuff in the world, definitely, because of religion. But
maybe this is a good time to talk about, just really quickly, the prison program.
The prison program.
We can do that, and while a couple other calls build up. Hang on, folks. We'll get to you in just a second.
Kind of interesting, actually. This is one of those programs that goes into state prisons called the Interchange program. It's basically a rehabilitation type thing. And what they say is it's a religious program, it's Bible study and such. And most, let me see, what was it? People who went through this program were 50% less likely to be arrested after they were released and 60% less likely to become reincarcerated. So essentially they're using that as support to say, look, these Christian programs are doing, real good. Which, in a sense, is true. However, what they fail to mention is that 50 to 60% number that they're bringing about is in relation to other prisoners who didn't go through this program. Now, the Interchange is not just something where, while in prison once a week, you go and read the Bible for 30 minutes and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
It involves 16 to 24 months of in-prison Bible education, work, and community service. It's followed by 6 to 12 months of follow-up care after release, in which a participant must hold a job and be an active church member for 3 consecutive months. So these are people who are getting a lot of personal attention about, how to get back in society, how to get a good job.
And it's multifaceted. It's not just promoting Christianity to them. They get them work.
It's total rehabilitation, essentially.
Yeah. But what they're doing is they're taking this multifaceted program, right? And they're focusing on the one aspect of it, which is, they go to church.
Exactly.
And saying, and it's all because of this, is the argument that they're trying to make.
Exactly.
Now, what I want to know is, are there similar interchange, how far is the experimenting gone? Are there other, interchange programs where if it's not Christianity, it's Judaism? Or it's Islam? So there are...
Typically, they mention it specifically. If there is a prison that has this interchange program, it does not have any others.
Right. So there's no way that they can verify...
So if you don't want to be a part of this Christian program, you're a part of no program.
Yeah. And
you don't have the choice of atheist, Jewish, Muslim.
They haven't tested it with any other religion,
or secular.
To know that there would be any greater or lesser of a recidivism rate if it were a Muslim or a Jewish or a Baha'i or a Unitarian Universalist.
Yeah.
They don't have any frame of reference. They just do this. There, you see, that's the proof.
Yeah. And I would support 100% if the federal government supported a secular thing that had 16 to 24 months of work in community service, 6-12 months of follow-up care, in which they must hold a job and be active in the community doing community service.
Yeah.
I'd be 100% in support of that.
Of course.
Take out the religion, I'm fine.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that people who go through this program, which happens to be religious, are much better than people who don't. Well, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's nothing else. There's no other alternative.
Exactly. The alternative is you just go to jail, and then they kick you out.
But if you're going to test it across the board, and then see it. With some of those prisoners, the religious aspect may very well be part of it. I mean,
of course.
Christianity is a very authoritarian belief system, and some people probably, unfortunately, do need that. They need this whole sort of fear in order to instill in them some kind of moral compass.
Yeah.
It's not adequate. They're not developed enough in their intellect to understand, any sort of behavior other than that which is backed up with a threat of retribution.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't understand good behavior beyond that.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that Christianity is the only source of that. You could use, test this program, but test it with other faiths. Test it with Judaism. Test it with Unitarian Universalism. Test it across the board, and let's see exactly, scientifically,
let's have the exact
how much
same
this,
program.
How much this one ingredient matters in the big picture. Not to say it doesn't matter, but of course, what this is, the way they're doing it, right, is so that the religious right in the Bush administration can justify giving government approval.
Exactly.
To endorsement of his faith, and one particular, Bush's faith, the majoritarian faith, and no other. And saying it works, so therefore we need to be pumping tax money into it.
Yeah.
So, and
no, we don't.
Oh yeah, sure, they have to get jobs, but it's really the religion.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, that's on it. So, Tony's been waiting. Hey, you're on the air.
Yeah, guys, I just want to say, a person being a certain religion, that'll make them a better person, so be it. But you go around in Austin, you see that so many churches here, tons of them here, and, people that go to the church, they call themselves religion, but you don't even see a unity among the churches here when, there's something happening in the community, they can't even come together, and, for the real issues here that faces us every day. So how could they really, a lot of them say that they're religion, when they really don't want to sacrifice themselves to try to make a difference?
That's a good point.
And then again, I want to say something about this. Some people, when they go to jail, a lot of times they'll start writing home and writing friends and say how much they don't find God and accept God in their life. A lot of them do that because they want people to believe that they have changed. But as soon as they get out, they're right back in there doing it again. Who they trying to fool? You know? So, I just want to say, I just don't think, some of the people here who really were saying that they religion, saying this, saying that, they just talking, but they not really living it. And, and that's when people see that, they take it for a joke. And you go around, you look here, it's just a lot of big jokes.
And it's that that's a very good point, Tony. And politicians will do this, right? They'll get out there and they'll make sure that the TV cameras see them praying and going in and out of church so that they appear pious, and then they think that voters will vote for them.
And what they're doing is putting up a big front. Is all they're doing.
What did Bill Clinton do the week after the whole Monica thing blew out? He made sure that every TV camera in America was pointing at him going in and out of church.
Yeah.
So people are You're right. They do that. They use religion is this great thing that people can put on like a nice cloak. And it's like, look, I'm pious now. I'm holy, and I'm a good person, and you should like me for that. Right. And you see that? That's what jailhouse conversions are about. Any law enforcement professional will tell you, look, these jailhouse conversions, these are just guys trying to, do what these guys will do anything to get paroled.
Yeah.
Right.
And if that's what they got to do, that's what they'll do.
Yeah. So. And then again, closing, I just want to say again, all these religion and churches here in Austin, they ain't even together yet. And how could they call and try to argue or try to make their point when I look at them and see, well, they ain't in the community make no difference. So until they start getting out there making a positive difference, stop telling them how much they right, because they not right. Yeah. So, appreciate it anyway.
Yeah, well, good points, Tony. Thank you for your call. Take care.
Yeah, a lot of people go to church every week and they justify it to themselves that they're not doing anything else by saying, well, I go to church every week. Isn't that enough? Essentially. Yeah. That's enough. I've got my ticket to heaven now. I've been good for the week. I went to church. And so now if I screw people off and, cut them off in traffic, well, I'm okay. So.
Yeah. Well, it's the appearance of piety and holiness is sometimes more important than whether or not it is really having any actual effect on your life. Very interesting here. I was going through my stuff, seeing what was old and that I could throw away. And I found something here. This is actually kind of old, but I think it's still pertinent. Pollster George Barna, who is this is an article from last fall. Now, Barna Research is a Christian polling organization, and this article at this time, this was last September. He says pollster. Let's see. His data undercuts some of the core beliefs that should, by definition, set evangelicals apart from their more liberal brethren. What this guy does is he is out there polling to see what exact impact religiosity has upon just the public in America and people who are religious. And he has found the following. The divorce rate is no different for born-again Christians than for those who do not consider themselves religious. Only a minority of born-again adults, 44%, and a tiny proportion of born-again teenagers, 9%, are certain that absolute moral truth exists. Well, of course it doesn't, but that's a whole another topic. Most Christians' votes are influenced more by economic self-interest than by spiritual and moral values. Desiring to have a close personal relationship with God ranks 6th among the 21 life goals tested among born-agains, trailing such desires as, quote, living a comfortable lifestyle. So, being religious for the average person doesn't really have much more of an impact upon how people live their lives than anyone else. And, it doesn't make you morally superior. But, of course, that is what the religious right is always telling us in order to promote a political agenda, which is that, morality is inseparable from religion, and we can't have laws without that. The whole Ten Commandment thing. Yeah. It's all like, this is what we use to found our civilization and our laws. Well, maybe not, but clearly it doesn't really seem to be a thing that was needed. And, of course, he's, some religious leaders were upset with Barna's findings. But this is, it just goes to show that a lot of what is, a lot of people's public displays of piety are just that. They're public displays. Yeah. Who's waiting on us now? Stephen? Is that it? And just wanted to remember for all unbelievers in the peanut gallery at home, don't forget our bagel shop meetings. If you are an atheist or an agnostic or unbeliever of any stripe and you'd like to meet other unbelievers, well, that's where we meet. Hot Jumbo Bagels, and you can visit our website and find more information on that. Website is below me and above me and all around me. Stephen, too. Hey, thanks for holding.
Hello. I'd like to know, in your opinion, what are the best points made in favor of there being a God, if even though in the end they don't convince you that there are a God?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. Ashley, do you want to start?
No, I'll hang up and listen.
Okay, thanks.
There is typically the main reason that the idea of a God falls down, one of them at least, is the problem of evil. If he's all-knowing, loving, and all-powerful, then there should be absolutely nothing bad in the world at all. Some people will give up one of those things and say, well, he's all-loving, but he doesn't mind punishing some people for something. Well, then, it's possible he exists. Unlikely, but it's possible.
Well, there's some other nuances to the problem of evil that are a problem with the problem of evil. I think that one big appeal of religion, and it's not the only appeal, but one thing that clearly resonates very strongly with believers is, of course, the whole notion of heaven and hell and an afterlife. The idea that when you die, you don't. That no one has to die, and that you can have this eternal life in Jesus Christ. I think that, now granted, I think that's an emotional appeal more than it is a good solid argument. There is, of course, no evidence at all whatsoever that there is any such an afterlife, but death and the finality of death resonates so strongly with just the average person that it's understandable that that would be a big selling point. It's not the only selling point. And also, I think that other people are persuaded by such things as the first cause argument, like we discussed with the earlier caller, and what have you, because, of course, they can certainly sound, it's possible to generate, I think, some very logically structured, at least, on the surface, arguments for why a deity would be necessary to explain this, that, or the other thing. And remember, before human civilization, when we were in a pre-scientific state, for thousands and thousands of years, gods were a perfectly understandable explanation for why stuff might go on. Yeah. Because they didn't have recourse to anything else. So the sun was God riding his fiery chariot across the sky and watching over us all and what have you. Yeah. And then,
and maybe I'm mistaken here, but I think that his point was, what arguments would seem strongest to us for the existence of God? Not strongest to the public, because to the public, I mean, definitely that, having an afterlife, having somebody watching out for you your entire life, like your parents did when you were a kid, those are really strong.
Yeah.
As for an argument that, for me, why would I, what is a good argument for God according to me?
Doesn't this get back to the thing that we had a caller about 3 weeks ago on the show who sort of, and he made an interesting point, and I've thought about it more since then, which is this whole, are atheists in fact hypocrites? Are we sitting here smugly on our program saying, hey, look, give us the evidence and we'll be happy to believe, but yet, we seem to have, a rebuttal to every argument that comes along, and so isn't it true that maybe we've just made up our mind and what have you?
Yeah, we haven't, laid down and say, okay, if you can do this test to prove God, then we'll be happy. We haven't done anything like that.
Well, and I came up with a couple of responses to that, and that is, first, I think a lot of it has to do with how one views the supernatural as a concept.
Okay.
I think that what makes God and the concept of God have such power over people, and this holds true for other paranormal beliefs, but specifically God, is that as long as God can remain an unprovable concept, something that is beyond the abilities of science to have any sort of concrete answer about, as long as God gets to exist in that realm, he is able to have that power over people, as long as he's not something that you can really prove exists.
He's not constrained by science.
Exactly. And that, I think, is a very appealing notion. And it occurs to me that I like to think that I'm very honest when I say, look, show me the evidence, and I will accept any claim if the evidence is solid. But it seems to me that if you were ever to come up with good, hard scientific proof for something like, say, ghosts, okay, ghosts are something that they're part of our pop culture consciousness.
Yeah.
And they're a supernatural thing, right? It's the disembodied spirit of a dead person, floating around and trying to contact you and bumping furniture and trying to tell you they love you and da-da-da-da, right? If you were ever to actually come up with good, hard scientific backing for the existence of ghosts, in the same way that science has, proven stuff like magnetism and, other things we can't see but we know are there, what would happen to ghosts is that they would cease to be supernatural.
Purely natural.
Yeah. Ghosts would become part of the natural world. Proving the supernatural scientifically would, by its very nature, bring that supernatural into the natural world, and ghosts would just be another thing in the universe.
Yeah, it's another phenomena.
And part of the appeal is that supernatural entity.
Yeah.
The appeal of these beliefs is that there's somewhere else. There's a higher realm. There's a higher power. I mean, we always hear believers using these terms.
Yeah.
And there's something about that I think captures the imagination. So, it's interesting. I don't know of any test that would prove the existence of God to me that would not make God just a natural being, a perfectly natural being. At which point, my wonder is, well, why think of him as a God?
Yeah.
I mean,
eventually comes down to the point of God is no better, in a sense, than some really powerful, advanced, space alien.
Yeah.
There's no difference, He's
like those monolithic slabs in the movie 2001, right? That's basically God, right?
Yeah.
designing humanity and pushing humanity in a particular direction.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what 2001 was about. This advanced race of aliens deciding to study humans and nudge our evolution in particular directions they wanted us to go. Yeah. And so there's really no fundamental difference. And it seems to me that if you were to prove God exists, well, then God's just a big all-powerful guy.
Exactly. It's a scary idea of pinning him down, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
In the sense that if science were to come out and say, okay, we know God exists, we found evidence. He's actually made of such and such material,
and he's over here.
Exactly. You can science can come along and pin him down on at least one aspect.
Yeah.
People don't like that. He's all-powerful. He can pull that pin out and do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And so basically that's destroying any form of science that you could ever do with them, because science is about explaining things.
Yeah.
And saying God's over there, he's made of this, this is how he creates the universe or whatnot. And they just don't like the idea that we're going to explain something about God.
They'd rather have the mysterious ways are more appealing. Yes.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I don't find that more appealing. Seems like we've got that right now, but what would it be like if we had a Congress that worked in mysterious ways? Or a president that worked in mysterious ways? Yeah. It kind of seems like we have that to a certain extent, but it's not making, it's not a very comfortable feeling. But so I don't know. I mean, I think that the act of proving God would sort of make him not God anymore.
Yeah.
And so that does sort of pose a problem to theology. So maybe there is this area where the naturalistic, the scientific worldview and the theological worldview just won't, never the twain will meet.
Yeah.
But maybe Anthony has, hey, thanks for holding.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're good.
I wanted to talk about that bishop that was accused of hit and run, and I think he was imprisoned. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, the Arizona guy?
Yeah. But before I get into that, I just thought it was kind of, I was curious to find out that the numbers 2064, they form a cross shape on a keypad.
Really?
And the fact that those numbers happen to be the last four numbers of Ashley's home phone number is kind of ironic, don't you think?
Well,
why don't you...
I wouldn't know anything about that. Why are you out there looking for Ashley's phone number?
Well, I guess you'll have to change your number now since you don't believe in God and they form a cross. So.
Well, that's kind of silly, but
well, now I've got your number now. Faggot.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Jeez,
if you want some.
People are really worked up about that Supreme Court thing, aren't they?
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
Again, it's sunny outside, people. Go enjoy it.
Don't know. But, arguments in favor of there being a God, that wouldn't be one of them. Okay. But, if you have caller ID, right, Ashley?
Yes, I do.
So if you get harassing, threatening phone calls, you can report those to the FBI, and they can track down the person making them and
put a boot on his head.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to be stupid, go ahead and do that. Lisa, one. Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
What can we do for you today?
Well, I had a comment, question kind of thing concerning the conversation as it was directed earlier when you were talking about the programs that are going on in prisons.
Yes.
And I think, although I understand the assertion that you made when you say that they're not testing the research that they have gathered on Christian organizations that are doing work in prisons fairly, because they have not tested them across the board with different sorts of religions. But the problem arises is that there are no other agencies that are trying to go into prisons. You don't see the Muslims trying to go into prisons and set up the same sorts of programs. You don't see atheists going into prisons and trying to set up the same sorts of programs. And I think that that's one of the things that you'll have to address when you talk about that being an issue of fairness, because you can't accuse Christians of being unfair in the research that they're gathering if there's no one else who is willing to go and do the work that they're doing.
Right, but we can accuse the government of sort of slanting their findings, right?
Well, the thing of it is that Christians were doing those things long before the government had anything to do with it.
Well, that's
so,
just me.
You're coming around the back and you're saying that the government is favoring Christians unfairly, when in fact all they're doing is supporting programs that were already going on. I'm sure that there would be a difference in the amount of support that you found organizations like yours getting if you had the history, or if your organization had this sort of history that Christian organizations have had around the world in doing humanitarian efforts. Yeah. And I think it's pretty low that you go and you criticize a person basically because you don't agree with their theology or the lack thereof. I don't criticize.
I'll tell you what I was criticizing. And first, a point that I think is very important to make is that it is true that you don't see too many other organizations apart from, say, Christian organizations doing these kinds of work. There's several reasons for that. For one thing, I think that Christianity, of all of the world's major religions, is more all about the overt, campaigns of conversion. They're very focused on that more so than other religions are. It is true. You don't get Jewish organizations out there. You don't get Muslim organizations out there, B'nai B'rith, or the Baha'is, or the Zoroastrians, or what have you, out there forming these organizations whose main intent is, let's get out there and convert more people to our belief system, as you do with Christians.
And I know that I understand that too, and the fundamental reason for that is because as a Christian, I know that our mandate is different.
Sure.
The other religions in the world have been basically formed because there's a selfish reason, there's a selfish motivation behind them. Christianity has gone out into the world because that's what Christ asked us to do. He asked us to go into the world and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of Jesus and giving them the hope of life in Christ.
Well,
and the way that Christian organizations are doing that is that they're going in and they're meeting the baser needs of individuals first. And I think that is the one of the testaments that Christians are really seriously about something that's real. I mean, I've been a Christian for more than 11 years now, and I can tell you that having talked to people from all over the world in my experiences from living all over this country, of other faiths and those who are like yourself of no faith, or Christians alike, there is something that's fundamentally different about Christians.
Sure, there is.
And another point
there is. Christians want to make more Christians. That's what it's fundamentally about. It's swelling the ranks.
It differs. And then there's another thing that you said a little while ago that I wanted to address too, and it concerned the fact that you were talking about how people are the jailhouse, when you were talking about the section on jailhouse conversions and how all these politicians always want to be seen going in and out of church. Well, I don't think that it's fair for you to equate someone who really has no basic belief in what Jesus Christ was all about and who's using that for their own fundamental needs, who's using that to gain for themselves, as opposed to the person that really truly has a depth of belief in Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior. That person is not going to be the kind of person that just goes to church and then is there to get just what they want to get.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and address those things now. First off, I think that we certainly are completely within our bounds to criticize anybody that we think is dishonest. And now, whether or not that person has a sincere belief in their religion, as opposed to being somebody who just uses their religion, for example, as a big display of public piety in order to win political favor or wealth or what have you, that to me is subsumed by the question of whether or not this person is honest, whether or not this person is motivated by self-interest or really wants to do good stuff. Now, in the interest of, I don't think that you could say that Christianity has been unpoliticized. It certainly has been, it certainly does have a checkered history. I mean, for every, I know that there are a lot of good campaigns out there right now. There are a lot of people doing a lot of good because they do, as you say, have this very sincere belief in their faith, and they really want, and they are sincerely motivated by the belief that if they go out and tell other people the good news and what have you, that they're doing really good things for those people. I think that's fine. That's all well and good. I don't think that that's necessarily what the Crusades or the Inquisition or the witch burnings were about. But it just goes to show that there is that religion, and particularly Christianity, because it has been such an influence on our civilization and on our culture, is a double-edged sword. And you can't just say, there's the good stuff, sure. But, there is the bad that can come with people who believe that the creator of the universe is their friend and is on their side and is advocating and supporting everything they do. You know, there are so many people out there who religion is a convenient tool to say, you know, we are doing this in the name of God, and all other people must sort of, you know, cower before us.
Yeah, but you can say that about any religion. You can, in fact, say that about atheists. There are people that are tagging along with atheists because these days it's more politically correct.
I don't know about that. I don't think
it's more politically correct in our society to believe nothing or to believe what's negative.
What town do you live in?
I live right here in Austin.
Okay, because I haven't seen that.
It's correct to believe that which allows other people or everyone to just live their own life, do anything that they want, not looking at what they say or what they do or what they believe affects society as a whole.
Well,
I'm not by any means saying that Christianity is perfect. I'm not by any means saying that religion is perfect. I myself am not a religionist. I believe in relationship, and I believe that there's a fundamental difference in people that are out there, quote unquote, just using the religious system.
But see, we don't care about that.
Believers is because the believer has a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what Christ offered. He didn't offer a religious system.
But you know, let me go ahead and stop you right here, because we've heard all of that, and we've heard that. You know, you're about to launch into this whole thing about having a personal relationship with Jesus, and we're not here to hear the sermon.
But see, that's where your arguments fall down, because you can.
But the thing is, we don't think this.
Off all day long what you believe and how you feel, but the minute a person with a viable argument or with something to say that is going to challenge and truly challenge what it is that you're trying to say, then you want to just move on. You want
you're not giving us a viable argument. You're wanting to preach a sermon.
Hang on.
You can't lump everybody together like that.
Yeah. Because there are no viable arguments.
We have
not heard a single one.
No, all you've said is, and we don't disagree with you, right? All that you've said is that there are people out there who are sincere believers in the faith, and they're out there trying to do really good stuff based upon their sincere beliefs. And we have no disagreement with that. What we disagree with is, for particularly what's going on with these prison programs, is, you're right, the government, if they wanted to, is that they could say, look, other religions, we know that you don't have the resources, you don't have the money, you don't have the manpower to go ahead and do these programs like the big rich Christian churches do. So tell you what, we'll go ahead and we'll sponsor you, and we'll see how well you do face to face with this other belief. And if they're going to do that, then that would be honest. And what's happening right now is the programs as it stands are dishonest, because they're looking at these very multifaceted programs that involve not only religious instruction, Christian instruction, but they involve getting these guys into community service, getting them jobs, making sure they stay at those jobs, I guess making sure they have any substance abuse treatment they need. Yeah. They take these multifaceted treatments and they strip all of that. They say, okay, but that's all less important than the fact that they have to go to church every week, and that's why these work. When we don't know that, what the percentage is.
That you leave out in that argument is that most of the programs that you see, the faith-based programs, the Christian programs that you see operating in churches, were not some big, totally funded, multifaceted, glossy thing that was just plopped into a prison. But most of them began because Christians, as individuals, small groups, decided that there was something inside of them
that
they wanted to
get the point
and minister to those people.
Lisa, we get the point. But what's happening is, that the federal government right now, under George Bush, is attempting to put forth faith-based initiatives in which taxpayer money would go strictly to Christian organizations and Christian services.
That's not true.
And no other. It is true.
That is not true.
It is very true.
That is not true.
It is very true. You can ignore it all you like, but it is very true. But ask one of these guys.
I'm not ignoring it.
Ask one of these people.
That I have done,
ma'am.
I am in the business of securing grants, based on faith-based initiatives.
Ma'am,
and that is not true. That's simply not true.
Would you be okay with your tax money going to a Scientologist organization for drug treatment?
if they're going to do what they say that they're going to do, if they're going to put it through a faith-based program, no, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Even if part of that is making people go to Scientology seminars where they are indoctrinated into Scientology.
I would not have a problem with that.
Interesting. Well, I would. Thanks for your time. We're down to our last 5 minutes, and it is against the Constitution to, and again, didn't mean to hang up on you there, Lisa, but we got one more caller to take, and we're running out of time. It is against the Constitution for any religious endorsement to come from the federal government. You just can't do it. What is behind separation of church and state is that it is up to the individual. It is the individual's sole right to determine what their religious beliefs are going to be versus not. Okay? Yeah. And that's what it is. And not to say that these prison programs aren't a good thing and that they don't work, but what's happening is that the GOP is using these as the justification for saying, let's bring more and more religion into the public sphere. Let's make it federally funded. Let's make it Christian. Yeah. And then and it's the wedge strategy. The more you get a little bit in there, the more and more people tolerate. And then before long, you've got Christianity as a state religion. And, and that would actually be bad for Christianity. But that's another talk.
It would then fall into obscurity.
Yeah. Like what's happening in Europe, where you have these countries that have state religions, and the percentage of the population that actually attends church is like 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making a religion the state religion is the best way to kill off a religion. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we should support it. 2, David. Hey, thanks for holding.
Hi. I was wondering, what are you guys' view on the Big Bang and evolution?
Well, we acknowledge that the Big Bang and evolution are the prevailing scientific theories that are out there.
Okay. Do you believe them yourselves?
Oh, they don't. They're scientific theories. They don't involve belief. Science involves what does the evidence show you, what claims can be backed up and then be studied further.
Do you believe in gravity and magnetism?
Yeah. See, it's not
the same thing. It's not really a belief.
Yeah.
Gravity and magnetism can be easily proven,
and so can evolution.
And
so can the Big Bang. Yeah, I mean, they've got their, there is the evidence that is logged and cataloged, and more study is being done. So,
all right. My question though, if evolution is true, and humans evolved from something sort of like a monkey, why did it stop? How come nothing else has evolved since people started recording these things?
I think what you need is an education. Evolution has not stopped. It doesn't stop. It's constantly going on all the time. Human evolution doesn't take place like over the weekend. It's a very long, gradual process. But you know where you can see evolution? You can see evolution in things like disease resistance to antibiotics. Yep. SARS, perfect example. That thing mutated into like 2 or 3 different forms and then burned itself out. AIDS is evolution in action. The way that virus is constantly changing to make itself more and more resistant to medicines
and such, yeah.
So evolution is an ongoing process, and 100,000 years from now, people will probably not be a lot like they are today.
Okay, thanks.
So anyway, look in on that website, and you'll get some more information about it. Okay,
all right,
thanks.
Bye.
Again, no insult, but a lot of the criticisms that we hear from creationists on evolution, they have these basic misunderstandings and core concepps. Yeah. Why did it stop? Well, it didn't stop. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Do we have time for Bob? Yeah, we do. Sure. Hi, Bob. Quick question.
Hi. Yeah, I'm going to be quick. I'm a Jew.
Hi.
Okay. I'm with you guys. I'm on your side.
Okay.
I have absolutely no problems with people who don't believe in God, and I wanted to set some people straight because these Christians always shout everybody down. They always just overrun everybody with dialogue and jargon. It's just nonsense. Jews do not seek converts. And Jews are, in fact, in prisons in very small numbers. Real simple proposition for the Christians out there. Who makes up the vast majority of the population in jail? Christians. Which shows how well they're doing. There's not very many Jews in jail. There's very few.
True.
And that doesn't. I'm not saying Jews don't do horrible things. Of course we do. Everybody does. But what I'm saying is that Christians are in jails and they're in prisons and all this stuff because they make up the bulk of the population.
Sure.
Real simple, people.
And if you had a Jew in jail, right, somebody who was Jewish, this person would not be able, if they were sincere in their faith, right, to undertake one of these interchange programs that could help get them out.
No.
Because they would not be willing, they might be willing to do all of the job process, all of the job programs, all the community service, all of the drug treatment programs, what have you, but if they're just not willing to convert to Christianity from Judaism, then they can't take part in this interchange program. So to say that it isn't favoritism, so for Lisa to say it's not favoritism is very, very naive. But thanks for your input, okay?
Right.
Take care. All right, we appreciate all our calls. We've had a heck of a show today. Very feisty. Don't forget TV at atheist-community.org. Viewer email address if we didn't get to take your call. Theists, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next Monday. Bye-bye.